Stories and Documentary Network.
The camera glides over mist-covered hills and dense jungles of central Vietnam. Ancient ruins emerge from the shadows, silent witnesses to a forgotten age. The distant crash of waves against the shore reminds us that this land once belonged to a people who ruled not just the earth, but the seas. History remembers great empires: Rome, Egypt, Mesopotamia, but some kingdoms vanish almost without a trace, leaving behind only whispers. One such kingdom was Champa, a civilization of warriors, traders, and builders whose legacy was nearly erased from memory. Yet its people, the Cham, endure today, scattered across Vietnam and Cambodia, guardians of a story that refuses to die. For centuries, Champa flourished along the coastline, building magnificent temples, commanding powerful fleets, and weaving a rich cultural tapestry influenced by India, China, and indigenous Southeast Asia. But its lands were coveted by neighbors, its people torn by war, and its cities eventually reduced to rubble. This is the story of a kingdom lost to time, yet never truly gone. A tale of identity, resilience, and mystery, where every stone and inscription still whispers of a nation that once thrived against the odds. Long before the name Champa appeared in chronicles, legends speak of a people who came from the distant seas, guided by stars and currents, carrying with them knowledge, culture, and language that would shape a civilization. Some scholars trace the Cham people to Austronesian seafarers, linking them to islands across the Indian Ocean and Pacific, suggesting a maritime heritage older than any written record. Others believe they emerged from the fertile lands of the Mekong and Red River deltas, a people born from the earth itself, learning to live in harmony with rivers, forests, and coastlines. Archaeological evidence of the Sa Huyn culture, circa 1000 BCE, 200 CE, offers the earliest glimpses into Cham ancestry. Intricate burial jars, bronze drums, and ornate jewelry indicate a society skilled in metallurgy and ritual. These objects reveal not only craftsmanship, but also deep spiritual beliefs. A culture that revered ancestors, nature, and the mysteries of life and death. By the 2nd century CE, the kingdom of Lum Ap emerges in Chinese records, widely regarded as Champa's first historical incarnation. Lum Ap resisted Chinese attempts at domination, asserting independence through both diplomacy and occasional raids. Over centuries, it evolved into the powerful kingdom of Champa, blending Austronesian roots with Indian influences, creating a society where trade, religion, and art interwove seamlessly. Myths amplify these historical threads. Cham legends tell of Lady Po Nagar, a goddess who rose from the sea foam to teach the people agriculture, governance, and spiritual rites. She became the divine protector of Champa, worshipped in towers and temples across the land. These myths reflect not just religious belief, but the Cham understanding of their identity. A people born of the sea and soil, resilient yet deeply spiritual. From these early foundations, half history, half legend, Champa emerged as a unique kingdom, defined by its ability to adapt, absorb influences, and thrive amidst a world of competing powers. Its culture was rich, its society complex, and its identity deeply rooted in both myth and reality. But the people of this land were not content to remain in one place. Their ambitions stretched beyond forests and rivers. They looked to the sea, and there they found their destiny. The sea was Champa's lifeblood. Where other kingdoms relied on fields and fortresses, Champa relied on its fleets and its knowledge of the waves. Its sailors were unmatched in Southeast Asia, navigating monsoon winds, hidden reefs, and the vast expanse of the South China Sea. These waters connected Champa to China, India, Java, and beyond, forming a network of trade and influence that extended far beyond its modest size. Cham ports thrived with commerce. Traders brought silk, spices, and precious metals. In return, Champa exported ivory, aromatic woods, and exotic goods. These bustling harbors became melting pots of culture, where Persian merchants, Indian Brahmins, and Chinese envoys mingled, leaving lasting imprints on religion, art, and language. The kingdom's wealth, however, was not merely economic. It was strategic. Control of the seas allowed Champa to defend its territory, raid rivals, and project influence across the region. The Cham were also formidable warriors. Chinese chronicles describe their swift, agile ships and daring raids along the coastlines of China and neighboring kingdoms. These vessels were not just instruments of war, they were symbols of power, speed, and cunning, embodying the kingdom's intimate relationship with the ocean. Yet maritime power came with challenges. Seasonal storms could devastate fleets, piracy was a constant threat, and ambitious neighbors always sought to dominate the same waters. Still, Champa's mastery of navigation and trade gave it a resilience that few kingdoms could match. The sea was both shield and sword, enabling the Cham to maintain independence for centuries despite the pressures of larger empires. And while Champa's ships ruled the waves, on land its people were building wonders that would defy time. Temples of brick and stone that rose like sacred flames, telling a story of faith, artistry, and ambition. If Champa had a soul made visible, it would be found in its temples. Rising from verdant valleys and hidden jungles, the temples of Champa stand as silent witnesses to a civilization that understood both the divine and the earthly. Their most famous site, Mỹ Sơn Sanctuary, is a labyrinth of red brick towers carved with intricate reliefs depicting gods, dancers, and mythical beasts. These temples, built between the 4th and 14th centuries, are more than monuments. They are expressions of cosmic belief, architectural prayers frozen in stone. Unlike the grand sandstone constructions of Angkor, Champa's builders relied on baked brick, fitted with extraordinary precision, often without mortar. Scholars still debate the techniques Cham engineers used. Were the bricks fired after construction, bonded with a lost adhesive, or shaped by some method now forgotten? Whatever the method, the result was a structure that could endure centuries of monsoons, war, and neglect. Each tower served as a symbolic axis, connecting heaven and earth. The spire represented Mount Meru, the sacred center of the universe, while the inner sanctums housed Linga and Yoni, the divine symbols of Shiva. Temples like Po Nagar in Nha Trang continued this tradition, honoring both Hindu deities and indigenous Cham spirits. Through these spaces, kings legitimized their rule, priests chanted rituals to secure protection, and ordinary people felt the pulse of the divine. Cham artistry was equally refined in sculpture and bas-relief. Dancers, warriors, and gods were carved with astonishing realism, frozen mid-motion as if time itself could not escape their eternal performance. Symbols of fertility, cosmic order, and protection adorned every wall, reminding visitors that life, death, and spirituality were inseparable. But these temples were more than art. They were fortresses of identity. Each brick and carving spoke to a people's resilience, ambition, and connection to the gods. They stood as silent witnesses to a civilization that thrived despite the looming threats of conquest. Yet no temple, no matter how sacred, could shield Champa from the storms of history that would test its very survival. Champa's history is etched in both glory and blood. Nestled between the rising power of Dai Viet to the north and the Khmer Empire to the west, Champa was constantly caught in a perilous position. Its kings were warriors, diplomats, and survivors, navigating a landscape where allegiances shifted like monsoon winds. The Cham armies, though smaller than their neighbors, were fierce and adaptive. In 1177, they achieved one of their most legendary victories. A fleet of Cham ships sailed up the Mekong, striking Angkor and plundering its capital. For the Khmers, this was a humiliation remembered for generations. For the Cham, it was proof that their mastery of the seas and cunning could compensate for their limited size. Yet triumph was fleeting. Over the centuries, waves of invasions and reprisals battered Champa's lands. The Khmer struck back in devastating campaigns. Dai Viet launched a relentless push southward in the process known as Nam Tien, gradually annexing Cham provinces and reshaping the region's political landscape. Villages burned, cities fell, and the once mighty kingdom shrank, its kings reduced to vassals in their own lands. Despite this, the Cham people clung fiercely to their identity. Religion, language, and custom became shields against assimilation. Kings alternated between resistance and accommodation, weaving diplomacy with tribute, Hindu rites with Buddhist negotiation. Each treaty, each war, each alliance was a desperate act of survival. preserving a culture under siege. Cham resilience was not only political but social. Coastal and highland communities maintained their traditions, from rice cultivation to bronze drum ceremonies, preserving memory in songs, dances, and rituals. Their ability to retain a unique cultural identity under pressure is remarkable, a testament to a people whose identity was inseparable from the land, the sea, and the divine. The struggle for Champa was more than a military conflict. It was a battle for the soul of a civilization. Each conquest threatened to erase centuries of history. Each assimilation risked the disappearance of language and faith. Yet the Cham persisted, leaving a legacy of courage and cultural tenacity that continues to echo through time. And while the kingdom fought to survive, its people turned to the gods, weaving together a spiritual tapestry that would carry them through the darkest days. Champa was a crossroads of belief, where gods of distant lands mingled with indigenous spirits. Hinduism, introduced from India, dominated royal rituals and temple life. Shiva reigned supreme, his linga placed in sanctuaries where kings sought divine sanction. But alongside these deities, Buddhism found its way into Cham society, offering teachings of compassion and meditation that spread quietly through temples and coastal towns. The Cham also preserved native animist traditions, revering rivers, mountains, and the spirits of ancestors. This blending created a culture where a fisherman might pray to sea spirits in the morning, chant to Shiva at midday, and meditate before a bodhisattva in the evening. Such religious syncretism was not a compromise. It was a deliberate strategy to unify society under multiple layers of faith. Temples reflect this fusion. My son's towers are unmistakably Hindu, yet inscriptions reveal Buddhist monks participating in rituals. Nagar honors both the goddess mother of the Cham and Hindu deities, a space where myth and history intertwine seamlessly. Festivals celebrated both harvests and divine legends, linking the mundane and the sacred. Religion also reinforced identity. As political power waned, Cham devotions strengthened cultural cohesion. Prayers, rituals, and sacred architecture became acts of preservation, encoding history and belief into stones and ceremonies. Even under foreign domination, faith remained a subtle form of resistance, a declaration that Champa endured in spirit if not in sovereignty. But while temples and faith preserved identity, the written word and the excavated ruins would hold the key to understanding just how far Champa's legacy truly reached. Much of what we know about Champa comes from fragments, stone inscriptions, temple ruins, and chronicles recorded by distant observers. These pieces, scattered across time and space, offer tantalizing glimpses into a civilization both brilliant and elusive. Sanskrit and Cham inscriptions carved into brick walls and sandstone steles reveal royal lineages, temple dedications, and records of battles. They speak of kings who styled themselves as divine rulers, intermediaries between gods and men. Yet the texts are often fragmentary, leaving gaps that historians and archaeologists have struggled to fill. Some inscriptions hint at trade networks reaching India, China, and the islands of Southeast Asia, while others describe rituals, festivals, and the construction of monumental temples. Chinese chronicles, particularly those from the Tang and Song dynasties, recount encounters with Champa's emissaries, raids on the coast, and tribute missions. These records, though colored by political bias, confirm the Cham presence as a maritime power and illuminate the delicate balance of diplomacy and warfare that shaped the kingdom. Archaeology has added another layer of understanding. Excavations at Mỹ Sơn, Dongdung, and Po Nagar reveal urban planning, domestic life, and funerary practices. Bronze drums, ceramics, and jewelry testify to a culture of craftsmanship and trade. Even the layout of villages and temple complexes hints at a people deeply attuned to both cosmic symbolism and practical design. Yet for all these discoveries, much remains unknown. Some ruins lie buried beneath jungle and silt, inscriptions remain untranslated, and entire chapters of Cham history may be lost forever. These gaps preserve the mystery of Champa, leaving us to piece together its story from the stones, the texts, and the echoes of its vanished cities. And as we follow these fragments, we confront a kingdom in decline, a people besieged by powerful neighbors, yet refusing to vanish quietly. By the 15th century, the tides had turned decisively against Champa. Centuries of warfare, shifting alliances, and relentless pressure from its neighbors weakened the kingdom. The Vietnamese expansion known as Nam Tien gradually eroded Cham territory, while Khmer power ebbed and flowed along its western borders. In 1471, Dai Viet launched a catastrophic campaign against Champa's capital, Vijaya. Tens of thousands perished in the siege. Survivors were enslaved or scattered, and the city itself was left in ruins. This marked the effective end of Champa as a sovereign power. Smaller principalities lingered in the south, but they were fragmented, vulnerable, and largely subordinate to Vietnamese authority. Yet decline was not sudden. It was a slow erosion. Coastal cities were repeatedly raided, inland trade disrupted, and political fragmentation became endemic. Dynasties that once ruled with confidence struggled to maintain legitimacy as borders shrank and rival claimants contested the throne. Even religion and culture, so central to Cham identity, could not prevent the disintegration of centralized power. The fall of Champa was more than military conquest. It was a cultural and demographic transformation. Many Cham were resettled, assimilated into Vietnamese society, or forced to flee to Cambodia and the mountains. Lands once adorned with temples and palaces fell into neglect, swallowed by jungle or repurposed by new rulers. The kingdom's rich archives, once etched into stone and recorded in texts, were partially destroyed, leaving gaps in the historical record that still puzzle scholars today. Yet in the face of annihilation, the Cham spirit endured. Even as cities crumbled and kings vanished, ordinary people preserved language, ritual, and memory. Champa as a political entity had fallen, but its identity survived, waiting to be rediscovered in later centuries. And so, while the nation itself vanished from the maps, its people continued to carry the flame of a lost civilization. Today, the Cham people remain scattered across Vietnam, Cambodia, and parts of Southeast Asia. They preserve a culture both ancient and adaptive, a living bridge to a kingdom that most history books have forgotten. Language is one of the strongest vessels of Cham identity. The Cham tongue, an Austronesian language, survives alongside Vietnamese and Khmer, carrying with it oral histories, songs, and stories of ancient kings and battles. Religious practice also preserves heritage. While some Cham adopted Islam through Malay influence, others maintain Hindu and Buddhist traditions rooted in the temples of their ancestors. Festivals, rituals, and daily customs continue to encode centuries of memory, allowing Cham identity to endure even under foreign dominance. Communities in the highlands and coastal areas maintain agricultural techniques, weaving, and ceremonial practices passed down through generations. Bronze drums, temple festivals, and sacred songs keep alive a sense of continuity with the kingdom of Champa, reminding the world that the nation, though politically erased, survives culturally. The Cham story is a testament to human resilience. It shows that identity is not solely defined by territory or political power, but by memory, ritual, and the determination of a people to survive against all odds. Through centuries of warfare, forced assimilation, and cultural marginalization, the Cham have preserved their history, refusing to let their heritage fade into obscurity. And yet, even as they endure, questions linger. What has truly been lost, and what survives hidden, waiting for rediscovery? Even centuries after its political collapse, Champa's presence lingers like a shadow across Southeast Asia. The ruins of Mỹ Sơn, overgrown with jungle, still echo with the chants once sung 1,000 years ago. Towers of brick rise silently from the earth, testifying to a civilization that dared to fuse artistry, faith, and engineering into monuments that challenged time itself. The Cham people, dispersed across Vietnam and Cambodia, carry forward the intangible heritage of their ancestors. Festivals, oral traditions, and sacred rituals preserve memory that no conqueror could fully erase. Language, too, acts as a vessel of continuity, connecting contemporary Cham to a kingdom long vanished from maps. In every prayer, in every song, a fragment of Champa survives, whispering its story to those who listen. Champa's influence is also visible in the broader cultural landscape. Architectural techniques, bronze drum motifs, and ritual practices seeped into neighboring societies, leaving subtle fingerprints on the fabric of Southeast Asia. Traders, scholars, and explorers recorded Cham practices, ensuring that even if the kingdom itself fell, its knowledge and innovations endured. Yet mysteries remain. Entire cities may still lie hidden beneath jungle and silt. Inscriptions are yet to be translated, and lost chronicles could reveal untold chapters of political intrigue, maritime conquest, and religious life. Each discovery raises new questions, suggesting that the kingdom was more complex and interconnected than we can yet fully imagine. Champa's legacy reminds us that a civilization can vanish from history books but persist in subtle, powerful ways. Its influence woven into the lives of descendants, neighboring cultures, and even the land itself. Historians and archaeologists continue to debate the fate of Champa, and alternative theories spark the imagination. Some suggest that environmental change played a role in the kingdom's decline. Rising sea levels, shifting river courses, or prolonged droughts may have undermined agriculture and trade, weakening society long before foreign invasions. Others propose that internal divisions hastened collapse. Competing royal factions, regional elites, and local chieftains may have fragmented Champa from within, leaving it vulnerable to the relentless advance of Dai Viet. Some scholars even speculate that Champa was never fully conquered. Instead, it transformed and assimilated, leaving cultural traces hidden within Vietnamese and Cambodian society. There are whispers of lost cities beneath sediment or jungle, artifacts waiting to be unearthed, and texts yet untranslated. Could these discoveries rewrite our understanding of Champa, revealing a kingdom more advanced and interconnected than previously thought? Some suggest maritime links with distant Austronesian civilizations, hinting that Champa's reach extended far beyond what is recorded. The mystery deepens when considering identity. Did the Cham people deliberately preserve certain traditions while adapting others, allowing the kingdom to survive spiritually even as its political structures crumbled? Could Champa, in some sense, have never truly disappeared, existing instead as a cultural and religious network stretching through generations? In exploring these questions, we realize that Champa's story is not only about what was lost, but about the resilience, adaptability, and enduring influence of a civilization whose echoes still shape Southeast Asia today. Champa's land may have been conquered, its cities razed, and its political power extinguished. Yet the Cham people endure, guardians of a legacy that refuses to vanish. Through language, ritual, architecture, and memory, Champa continues to breathe, hidden yet present, a testament to the resilience of human culture. Standing among the ruins of Mỹ Sơn, one cannot help but feel the weight of centuries and the whispers of a civilization that defied the erasure of time. Champa reminds us that nations are more than borders, armies, or maps. They are stories, traditions, and the memories carried by people across generations. In the end, the lost kingdom of Champa is a paradox. Vanished yet persistent, conquered yet unconquerable, erased yet immortal. Its story leaves us with wonder, urging us to search for the forgotten, to listen to the whispers of history, and to honor the civilizations that endure beyond their fall.